I'm Andy Willans from Middlesbrough, um, and I'll hand you over to Shabina, who will take it from me.
Hi everyone. So I'm Shabina. I'm going to do my best to go through, I think, the easier part of this. And then Andy will take over with the actual examples, and hopefully it'll make a lot more sense when we go through it. Okay. So we're going to be looking at generally how STV works, in particular the Imperiali quota and how that probably will affect if you haven't voted already, what you might want to take into consideration when you do put your votes in, or if you've already voted, what it might mean. Now, anyone else that wants to jump in and correct us at any point, especially me, honestly, I'm happy. I'm happy for that to happen. Okay. Yeah, Andy, if we can move on to next one. Okay. So we'll just have a quick look at firstly, we'll just go over different voting methods. Then we'll look into a bit more about what STV is, and how the Imperiali quota works. Specifically how the examples will look at how like the surplus votes are being transferred and how that might affect how you either rank or how it affected how you ranked your candidates. Okay, let's have a look at the next slide, please. Okay, so we have got a few different types of voting methods. You'll probably know first past the post the most because that's what we use in the UK general elections. We then have STV or single transferable votes, which is what we're using in this election. So this is when there's like multi-seat elections and there's a ranked choice. It's also used in Scottish local elections. And then we have the alternative vote as well, so AV, and that's when there's a single seat election and you still have a ranked choice. So there are other systems used in the UK. We've got them listed there. So we've got supplementary vote, additional member system, and closed party list. Okay, next one. Okay, so if we're looking a little bit more into STV, that's single transferable vote. So that is a proportional voting system where you can rank your candidates in order of preference. What you'll normally have in a STV election will be multiple winners. You'll have any surplus votes being transferred, and that might be because the first seats been won already, and so additional votes get transferred, or it might be because the candidate that you are kind of voting for or backing has actually been eliminated because they've been ranked lowest on the list. Um, Essentially, it means that your vote will always try to stay with your highest viable preference. So you're not losing out essentially, just because your choice has been already elected or has been removed from the election. Next one. Okay. And so ideally, a single transferable vote would mean fair representation. It would reduce wasted votes, encourages you to kind of rank in whatever preference you'd like, and it would usually support a diversity of voices. Next slide. Okay, so one of the things that we need to remember is that there are quotas. So for each of the voting systems, there's a quota that each candidate will need to pass to win. So the quota is just simply a minimum number of votes, and each STV system uses a different formula to figure out what that minimum number of votes is going to be. So the quota system we're going to be using in your party, I say we, as in the one that we are being made to use is the Imperiali quota. I'm really sorry if anyone gets offended by how I'm saying that. I practice a lot on how to say that word. You can ask Andy. But yeah, correct me if I'm wrong on it. There are other quotas, and we can look at those a little bit as well. So that's hair and droop. So those are the other quotas. Sorry, so it was some coming in.
There's something funny going on with my computer.
Yeah, if everyone,
I'm just going to mute you, quota, unless you need.
Do I need to mute it, girl?
thank you.
I just muted quota. If you needed to say something, if you could just use the raise hand thing, just so we know you actually want to contribute. I'll just interrupt. Sorry. The lists of like examples of other quotas and other systems are used, and they're not exhaustive, but they're more commonly used other ones. There are a ridiculous number of other ones.
Yeah, so we just picked the ones that we thought would just be easy to compare for you. So let's have a look a little bit more about. So okay, extra slide in there. Surplus transfer methods. Okay, so the random. I'm so sorry. This is the first time.
Do this
Yes,
one,
Andy.
Sorry, I
Yep.
snuck this one in at the last minute, just because the other side of this, apart from the quotas, is the method used to transfer surplus votes. So if you have more votes than you need for the quota, the excess is transferred to your next choice, and there's different methods to be able to distribute those votes. An older method that was used when you use paper ballots would be a random sampling. So you just find out how many excess votes that candidate has. You just take a random selection of that equal to that number, and you just distribute them based on that. Then next choice is down. With computers, it's much easier to actually proportionally distribute those. So just a very simplistic view of weighted inclusive Gregory method, because I tried explaining it earlier and my own eyes glazed over, and I don't want that to happen to you. But as we take everyone's vote who supported the winner, shrink them down to a fraction, so the winner keeps only what they need, pass over the leftover value of those votes to the next person on that ballot list. Ensures that if you voted for like a superstar who wins by a landslide, your vote can still help your second favorite candidate.
And don't worry if that went completely over your head. Hopefully the examples that we'll have will help you see how it works.
Sorry, I did
Come
put
on,
my
Matthew.
Sorry.
in. Can we go back to that last slide again?
My screen froze as well, so I couldn't make sense of anything then.
Yeah, I don't understand this random sampling thing. So where's the randomness come into it?
So with random sampling is, imagine you've got just a stack of paper ballots, and you've counted up who goes away. So you're in round one. You've got everyone who's got your rank one votes, and you know that, say you've got 100 votes. You know they only need 50, but so this candidate has received 100 rank one votes. So you know that the excess, the surplus, is 50.
50, yeah.
So you take 50 random ballots who ranked this candidate first,
50.
and then
I see what you mean. So that you choose, so the people that fulfill that first candidate's quota are randomly selected, so that I get it. Thanks.
Yeah, but only the excess, and then the excess goes to the next person down on each ballot list.
Got it.
Whereas with the weighted inclusive Gregory method, all votes are basically transferred, but only a proportion equal to the surplus. It's a lot fairer, and it means that you don't need, in case that random sample wasn't actually representative of the surplus of all of the votes. You do it this way, and it's really difficult for me to explain it in a succinct way that will actually, I think, make sense.
Yeah, it makes sense though. It sounds better. Yeah.
It's one of those ones where I'm more inclined towards the sort of trust me on this one. It is fairer. There are issues with it. There are always issues with anything that always compromises, but it is fairer than the random sampling. Kim, you've got your hand up?
Yeah, I was just going to say, so with that, say for example, I won't say who I voted for because I guess it'd just be stupid for me to do so. But I guess, let's say hypothetically, I've done an independent as number one, and then the rest are slates. Would that mean I'm giving more chance for the independent? Because I know there's some people that have wanted to try and do it that way, and that's how I've ended up doing it.
So if the person that you've got ranked one, is not eliminated, then your vote doesn't transfer. So if say whoever you're unless there's a surplus and we need to go on to another round, but I'll sort of get into that a little bit later with the example. But
of course,
if your candidate, if whoever you ranked number one was eliminated and their votes were distributed, their ballots were redistributed, then yours would then go to your rank two if your rank two was still there, and then transfer to your rank three if your rank two wasn't there, and so on and so forth. Under the Imperiali system, under the Imperiali quota, the rank one vote, the person that you rank number one, that's like, it seems to me to be disproportionately important compared to other quota systems. But so your rank one is the more important one there, but it does sort of it does depend a little bit in this one. But I think it'll hopefully become a little bit clearer when I go through an example.
Cheers.
And you've got your hand up?
Oh yeah, I just wanted to explain that proportionality bit perhaps a bit clearer. In your example, say you had 100 votes and the quota was 50, so that means there's 50% surplus. So then all of the second preferences will be looked at, and each one would be considered half a vote to be transferred, a 50%, because there was a 50% surplus. Instead of just taking 50% of them at random or half of them at random, you count them all and then consider each one to be just half a vote to transfer. And of course, it gets more complicated as you go if there are different numbers, but that's quite an easy one. Does that make sense to people? Yeah, you transfer them as fractional votes rather than you transfer all of them as fractional votes instead of just taking a random sample that may be representative or may not be. And then, if you take the random sample, that means if you got a recount, you might get a different result because you got a different random sample. So it means it is fairer. I mean, I have no problems with that Gregory system. It's a bit complicated if you're doing it by hand, but computers can manage it. I've no problem with that part, but the quota, the quota is another matter. Okay. Right.
So if there's no other questions, I think pass back on to Shabina.
Yeah, so I was going to say that hopefully once you start going through the examples, it'll be a lot easier to kind of see that in practice. And if there's like further questions or further clarification that we need, then hopefully we'll try our best to explain it. When I say we, I mean Andy will try his best to explain it in a different way that might help. And we are super aware that this isn't like your everyday kind of knowledge, and it might be a little hard to get your head around. I mean, it took me a while as well. Andy went through it with me a few times as well, and I asked lots of questions. So please don't feel worried about asking any questions. That's what the whole session's about. It's just that so when we leave this session, we hope that as many people as possible that attended will have a slightly better understanding than they did before. Okay, so like we mentioned, we'll be using the Imperiali quota, and there is a particular formula for that quota that you'll see in practice through the examples. And essentially, the one thing that, well, what you'll see generally when you compare it to the other kind of quotas is that there is, when we use Imperiali, the quota is lower than, for instance, those like Droop. There's more candidates that would reach this particular quota earlier in comparison to the others. It will lead to, or likely lead to, fewer transfers because there's more of an expectation because of a lower quota. So if there's a lower amount of votes that's needed for you to hit the quota, it's more likely that not just the winning candidate, but other candidates as well will hit that quota or hit that number of votes in that first round. So that it's unlikely then that there'll be further transfers into remaining rounds, and it can favour larger voting blocks as well. And that's what we saw when we were going through the examples. So we're just looking at the other quotas here as well. So we've got Hare, Droop and Imperiali. There's the formulas next to them. We're assuming in this example that there's 1,000 valid votes and there's 2 seats. So then if you can see in the quota side of it, so with Hare, for instance, you would need to have 500 votes to hit the quota in that first round. For Droop, you'd have to hit 334 votes, and Imperiali it's 250. So the Imperiali quota is lower. Candidates hit the quota faster. There's fewer rounds or possibility of more candidates than seats as well. So there is a chance that more candidates will hit that quota, and then what happens is that you'd have to look at who got the highest number of votes. Does that make sense so far? No. Okay, right. Let's try to do the examples and let's see where we get with that.
Just
you might need to zoom in if you can.
Try to zoom in a little bit. Is that? Oh. Right. Sorry, I'm my zooming has gone a little bit insane. I'll talk through this. This is a sheet I worked through a while back, and sort of it takes us through just a couple of ways that this this could work. Sorry, I just saw a question in the chat there. What happens if all candidates in that region get enough votes? What happens then? So it is possible for there to be more candidates hitting the quota than there are seats available. And in that case, what happens is they take the I believe the standard approach there is just they take the highest number of votes in that instance, like the person who met the quota but doesn't have but has the lowest amount of votes then gets it regardless of anything. So there's another reason why Imperiali is not a great system. Using the other methods like Droop, that's not a possible outcome because of the way the formula works. I think that was the question. Yeah, Kim, you are correct. So in this example that I worked through, sorry if it's a bit too small for people's screens, but I'll just talk through the whole thing anyway. So I hope you don't hate the sound of my voice. So I just came up with a sort of twee little example using like animals and a jungle and a couple of parties that live in the jungle. You've got the big cat party, the primate party, and a number of independent candidates representing various large herbivores, small mammals. there was a poll conducted to reveal the voting intentions of the parties and independents. Big Cat and Primate Party they pretty much only want their party to win, and they're entirely opposed to the other party winning, so they'll rank independent candidates ahead of candidates of the other party who they won't rank. Independent candidates prefer other independent candidates. And like I say, this is very simplistic. I know this isn't like how it might necessarily work out in real life, but otherwise it's way too complicated to put into this kind of thing. But all the independents are anti-Big Cat. So voters who would prefer an independent will still prefer the Primate Party over Big Cat. So that will be their sort of voting pattern throughout this example. In the polling, we find that Big Cat has a slight plurality of voting. They are the favoured party of 51% of the voters. So they are the largest party, and they are the most popular party. Primate Party, 30% of voters prefer them, and then 19% of voters prefer the independents in this case. And then we have that broken down by the actual candidates over here. So we've got Jerry and Olive, who are Big Cat, Tabitha and Harry, who are in Primate Party, and then we've got Barry, Tamsin, and Arnie, who are independents, and this is their first preference favourability. Now, because in this instance, Big Cat have 51% of first preference favourability in this poll, they're fairly confident. They're not going to engage in any kind of tactical voting. They just sort of go ahead with it. And also, weirdly, they announced that this was the voting system that they were going to be using just before polls opened. So no one else really had any chance to react to that. I know that sounds crazy. That wouldn't happen in a real election, but it's happened here. So we've got our 2 seats, we've got our 1,000 voters, and we've got our quotas, which we just went through a little bit earlier. So under Imperiali in round 1. Because of the 26% favourability and 25% favourability, that translates into 260 votes for Jerry, 250 votes for Olive. That's the quota that they need. Job's done, election all done. Yay, Big Cat. However, 49% of voters are left completely unrepresented. Just over 50% of the votes actually counted in this election. The rest of them just didn't matter at all. So it's not particularly representative. But then if we go over to this side, we've got under the same preferences, the same voting patterns using the Droop system. So under Droop, round 1, no one hit the quota. So we move on to the next round, and we eliminate Arnie Armadillo. All of Arnie Armadillo's second preferences get transferred to other independents. Again, no one hits the quota, so we continue on. Now Barry Batt has 190, so he's not the lowest. The lowest is now Harry, who was eliminated. But as a Primate Party candidate, all of his second choice votes go to Tabitha. Now, still round 4, no one has been elected, so we move on to round 5. And in this instance, Barry Batt has been eliminated, but we know that independents prefer the Primate Party over Big Cat. Big Cat, no. So in this instance, Tabitha Tamarin is actually the first seat elected, whereas under Droop, the Big Cat got both. In this example, Primate Party actually gets the first seat. Now, Tabitha now has a surplus of 156, But we also know that all of the voters so far have ended up transferring into Tabitha's total are anti-Big Cat. So they actually didn't rank Big Cat at all. So these surplus votes play sort of now at this point discarded and play no further part in the election. So now we're just left with 1 seat remaining and 2 Big Cat candidates. Olive Ocelot is eliminated, and therefore Jerry Jaguar is passes the quota, but it's also the last one remaining anyway. So now we have both seats elected, and we see that actually in this case, rather than both seats going to Big Cat and Big Cat taking a sweep, there's actually a much more proportional outcome where and representative outcome of the voting. Of the voters, while they may not have got even their first or second choices, they did end up having an influence on the final outcome where they got someone elected who wasn't Big Cat, and that ended up being a more proportional outcome for the jungle. I have a second example, which is extreme in a different way. I apologize that I'm going on and on and on, but I hope that this is helping in some way. So in this instance, this next time around, people have gotten wise to the situation. They've seen how unfair this system is, but for some reason it's still in place. But they've had enough time, at least the other party here have had enough time to think, we should be tactical about this. And also as a result of this unfair voting system that was used in the previous election, the Big Cat party favourability has actually gone down significantly because people don't like it. So now, while Big Cat is still the most popular party, they now only have a 28% rather than 51%. 51% preference. 45% are independents who are just no parties, thank you. And also the distribution of preferences for each candidate is a lot closer. And now Barry Batt is actually the most popular candidate, although it's not a significant advantage on anyone else. So again, if you go through Imperiali, we'll use the same voting patterns, even though independents are more popular than they were before. Everyone still who isn't Big Cat doesn't want Big Cat. But we see that in this instance, the parties have tactically instructed their voters on how to vote. They've given their voters a ranking. Like an instruction of how to rank their candidates in order to maximize the chances that they get the seat. So what the Big Cat party have said, hey, voters, you should rank Jerry Jaguar first and Olive Ocelot second. And the Primate party have said, go Tabitha Tamarin and then Harry Howler. This is to maximize the chances that they get at least 1 seat. Since none of the parties have 51%, which is sort of like the cutoff where you can get both, they are maximizing their chances of consolidating their vote to get 1. So I've assumed that the voters that support Primate Party and Big Cat all have some voters who just don't like being told how to vote, so they'll vote their preference regardless. So I've said 10% of Olive Ocelot and Harry Howler voters will still vote for them. So in this instance, you get people who preferred Jerry Jaguar's 160 plus 108 for the people following the tactical instructions for Jerry Jaguar, and 145 plus 112 votes for Tabitha Tamarin because of the instructional votes from the Primate Party. Now, the Primate Party and the Big Cat Party have both managed to, in round 1, consolidate their vote enough, even though they are only 28% and 27% favourable to the entire jungle, they've consolidated their vote enough that in round one, the vote is once again done. We've elected a big cat and we've elected a primate party. But if we then sort of move on to looking at like how this would work under Droop, we can actually see that the independents, who didn't really have a chance here because they just didn't have the tactical cohesion or whatever it is you want to call it to be able to consistently consolidate their vote in a unified ranking like a party would be able to. They basically had no chance in this one unless they had round one support enough to get to that level where they passed the quota. There was basically not really a chance for them in this instance. But we go through the Droop example again. But in Droop, the parties didn't tell anyone to vote tactically, so this is just as per their popularity. So this one, Olive Ocelot gets eliminated round one. Votes transferred to Jerry Jaguar. Big cat candidate, but no one's exceeded the quota. So we go through it more and more. I won't talk through each round, but you can see who's being eliminated each round. And then it takes us till round 5 until we get to our first and also second seat being elected in this case. And this was actually a result of Tamsin Tapia ended up with being eliminated and transferring all of her votes to Barry Batt. So Barry Batt meets the quota of 334. And this was as a result of receiving all of Tamsin's votes added to his previous votes equals 334 with a surplus of 116. Now, if you have a candidate that's elected that has a surplus, then that transfer happens immediately before any other eliminations happen. So, and we know that independent voters still prefer primate over big cat. So all 116 of Barry Batt's surplus votes transferred to Tabitha Tamarin, and Tabitha Tamarin, which helped put Tabitha Tamarin over the threshold needed in order to be elected. And instead of one big cat, one primate party, we actually have now an independent and a primate party elected. And since we know that primate party actually since we know that independents represented 45% of the voters, and all of those 45%, they all preferred primate party to big cat. And so big cat was actually a minority despite being the largest party. We got again a more representative outcome. And then I just put a big old thing of a bit of a summary on there, which I'm not going to read all about, but hopefully that was reasonably easy to follow. And again, this is very simplistic, and it doesn't get into all of sort of the nitty-gritty and the potential outcomes, and voters don't vote in this simplistic way as well. So it's just an example of why Imperiali is significantly less representative than other voting methods. Now, how this translates into the Your Party vote for when you're ranking candidates for the CEC, if you haven't ranked already, as you can see, that in both of these instances, and yeah, I did sort of pick extreme examples to show this, but in both of these instances, with the same voting preferences, Imperiali is over in fewer rounds, and that is a sort of a feature that is consistent with Imperiali. So it's much less likely that your, say, 3rd, 4th, 5th rank candidate is going to matter. What's going to matter most is your first, maybe your second, and a very, very, I would, based on what I've seen, like plugging various numbers, playing with various numbers, is that it's very, very unlikely that the 3rd rank choice is going to matter. it's going to be over in round 1, maybe round 2. And that's where this favours voting tactically. And unfortunately, what shouldn't be happening with an STV vote, in my view, is that we shouldn't need to vote tactically. It should be a system that allows us to vote with our genuine preferences without needing to worry about it. But in this case, if you are, regardless of if you are pro-slate, pro-not, pro-independence, pro-whatever, I don't really sort of care about anyone's personal preferences in terms of your voting, but what you want to do, what you are possibly encouraged to do by this voting system is vote for the candidate that you are not against being elected, who has the best chance of being elected in passing that quota in an early round. So if you've got an independent that's got maybe like, we also don't have any polling. The only polling thing that we possibly have is the endorsements, which is a very woolly way of looking at it, because we don't know how reflective that is of reality of anyone's like preference. But if we go off that, and your favorite candidate is an independent who has like 75 endorsements, and they're up against candidates who have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, they are less. Helen, I do see it. I'll call you in a second. Then you potentially have like your vote just might not matter because the people who are elected in like maybe the first round, so there's no transfer happens. Helen, yes, sir. You're muted. You're muted, Helen.
Whilst we're waiting for Helen to come in, I thought it might be a good idea to just show everyone the different links that we had open. So there was a bit of an explainer on the website. And if you don't mind, yeah, just open up the other ones. So there is a bit of an explainer there. And I think it was interesting when we were looking at even Wikipedia in terms of like the Imperiali quota and what it had to say.
That quote,
yeah, specifically talking about how unpopular it is. And so that was really a really interesting read as well. The other thing, Andy, as well, that's come up is Scotland, and I realised that we didn't mention it at all, even though we spoke about it earlier. So I don't know if you want to say a sentence or two about that.
So this is something that Anne actually, Helen, I don't know if you want to post your question in the chat if you can't unmute or anything, but. So for Scotland, and this is something, and Wales, this is something that Anne called me up on, is that with STV, if you only have one seat available, what should be happening is that you actually run that under alternative vote instead, where there's no quota, because you just get to the first person that reaches more than 50%, and for some reason, that's if you look through any of the election rules, as you can see, I was looking for Wales. Any of this, it doesn't mention AV at all, which suggests to me that they are just going to run the single seat elections under Imperiali as well, which means that you want it, like, for those, instead of getting to 50%, you only need 33%. Ian, you have your hand up?
Do you want me to speak now?
Oh, hi, Helen. Yeah.
Sorry, I got all excited and clicked the wrong button. I had to rejoin you. Just going back to where you were talking about the endorsements, I know, I mean, really it's irrelevant because I reached 75 quite quickly and then encouraged, because I was keen for other independent candidates, and we were encouraging people to not add to the 75 but to help others through. So, you know,
yeah,
That's it, really.
We had the same experience in the Northeast where once people started hitting 75, there was a lot of encouragement to sort of like to maximize the number of good candidates on the ballot, to like maximize the amount of democratic choice that we're going to have.
Absolutely.
Under the assumption that we were going to have some kind of fair elections.
Absolutely.
How crazy we were.
It's
a great point that like we can't take those numbers as, whereas in other regions, like I know that the slates were just engaged in this contest of like trying to up the endorsement numbers as much as possible at the sacrifice of the independents. So we can't take them as anything.
And interestingly, once we got to a certain point, the slates joined in and started saying, "Oh, give the independents a vote," which was just a load of bullshit, really. Sorry, excuse my language. I'll put myself on mute.
I'd be totally happy to talk to you about that privately as well, if you want to, at some point. So Ian, you put your hand up. You come in now.
Or is it me?
Yes. Oh, sorry. I should have said your last name too. Yes, Ian.
All right. Thanks. Basically, to raise the Scotland issue, that especially Scotland, I think Wales has got 5 candidates. We've got 3, so that seats +2, the exact quota. So unless it's a 3-way tie, there will definitely be 2 of us get through to the next past the threshold. And then it's basically pure first past the post, isn't it? Except for
essentially,
the way it's described in the rules. The highest surplus is after transfer. So I don't know if that means just the most votes.
So
the first place vote, or if it means if one of our supporters is more generous with second and third preferences, even though they don't matter anymore. That might be a tiebreaker instead. If it was very close, presumably it would be the same person, but if it wasn't. One other question is this being recorded for those of us, not us, those others who have a better offer on this night of all nights, because it would be a good explainer to circulate.
So to both of your points there, so in Wales they've got 4 according to this sheet that I've got here, and in Scotland you've got 3. Sorry.
Andy, if you make me co-host, if you can, and then I can help with muting.
Oh yeah. I can only make you host.
Oh, okay.
So it's fine. So I'm speaking. Right. Sorry. I think it's Ian's background noise actually. So in Scotland, you've got in fact, I'm just going to mute you, Ian. Sorry. If you want to come back in after, there's a lot of background noise. There won't be a second round in Scotland. The second choice won't matter unless I'm really, really wrong about this. But like someone's guaranteed to get more than 33% in round 1, otherwise something's gone weird. So it's basically Scotland is first past the post. Like there's no other way to spin that one. It's just going to be whoever gets the most votes will win. The only thing with that is with Imperiali, because it's possible for more candidates to hit the quota than there are seats, there should be tiebreaker rules also. Those tiebreaker rules, I may have missed them. It would be unlikely that I've missed them, but I don't see them anywhere in either the STV explainer or the rules.
There's a website called What in the STV, a page on the Your Party website, and it does describe the tiebreaker, which I'm not sure because of the language used is just first past the post or not. I posted it in the chat. I'll just go back.
Okay.
It says if the number of candidates whose votes simultaneously equal or exceed the quota is greater than the number of seats to be filled, those seats will be awarded to those candidates with the largest surpluses before transfer. So largest surpluses before transfer, I don't know if that just means most first preference votes, or if it means you really should encourage your supporters to do transfers, even though they won't help the person they're transferring to.
In the case of Scotland, it'll just be the person with the highest number of first rank votes.
But well, unless it's AV, you were just saying, but there's no indication it will be. It's, what it does show is why it's such a bad idea for us to only have one seat, along with all the other reasons I've been highlighting in the campaign, saying that we really should get more ASAP, not next year. But I wanted to ask the other question of just, is this being recorded to circulate?
Yes, sorry. Yes, I am recording this. Basically, I had no real concept of how well this was going to go, or if it would even be useful, so I wasn't going to like stream it. But if this is something that people are finding useful and feel like it would be beneficial, then I will upload it somewhere, possibly on the. I'll see if I can use the Your Party Tees Valley YouTube page, or I'll find somewhere.
All right, cool. If you could circulate in the chats that you were that I saw it in, that'd be great.
After this, we'll figure that out.
Some people might be going into this innocently, voting as if it's an ordinary STV election.
Yes, I feel like that's what's happened with a lot of people, and possibly why this was announced late. But getting into that kind of speculation might get me in hot water with someone.
No, I just.
But so, can we move on to Stuart next? Got his hand up.
Yeah, it was just clarification, and it's coming back to what Helen was referring to earlier on. Jeremy Corbyn actually put out a message urging people to vote for myself and Alex, another independent person in the North East constituency. But his call to support independence only came after he'd exhausted all the endorsements for his own two candidates. One of them got way over 100, and there was no call, and as I say, until presumably endorsements stopped coming in. So it was a farce, but it was just meant as a kind of theatrical gesture to show how fair they are when they're totally unfair.
And Anne?
Andy, actually, is it okay if I
sorry, I've got a thing over whoever that was next. I couldn't see who I was.
No, it's not me. It wasn't me next.
Yeah.
I just wondered if I could respond to that. Now, one of the things is when you are running sorry, I do have my camera off now. One of the things is if you are running as a candidate, or if you're running a campaign in elections, right, a lot of it's about strategy. Now, if I was running, I'm just saying this as an example, if I was running the campaign for a slate, right, and I had an understanding of how the next round was going to play out, as in I knew that it would be the Imperiali kind of quota that was going to be used, I would use that to my advantage, and I would try to ensure that there were enough candidates in the next round that would split the vote for my opposition. Now, this may not be how it was done, but I'm going to be honest with you. If I was in charge of a campaign for a slate, I would definitely apply that strategy to give my slate a better chance of winning in the round that mattered, i.e. the voting round, right? And so if I felt that candidates who might be, if certain independent candidates, for instance, who may split the votes for the other slate, I would encourage you to get them through the next round as well. That was just my little bit that I wanted to just add in as a additional thing to think about.
Okay, we'll pass over to Anne.
Okay, I just wanted to say, even with 2 seats, it's not very proportional and not very satisfactory with STV. It would be much better to have bigger regions with fewer and bigger regions with more seats each, say 5 regions with 4 seats each, 3 regions with 3 sixes. So, yeah, if you had, say, I mean, Irish elections, they have 3 to 5 seats per constituency. So in the future, I mean, even with Droop, it still isn't. So, and there were emails saying that we decided we had to do it this way because of decisions made at conference. Well, that's not correct. We decided it would be done regionally. We didn't specify how many regions at conference. It was the temporary admin that specified there should be 9 regions, and there wasn't any specific reason for them to do that. So in the future, if we can, we need to change that to maybe 5 regions or 4 regions to make it much more proportional. Otherwise, there's not that big a point using STV. I mean, it is still going to be a bit more proportional than using first past the post. And even better if we were using Droop. We need to really specify these things. We weren't given the options to specify any of these things at conference, unfortunately. So that'd be for the future, that we need to put in motions to get it all properly specified and to be much fairer and more proportional, if we can, depending on who's on the CEC, of course, and whether they'll let us do that. Okay.
So I think sort of just Ian, Anne, and Shabina, you've all got your hands still up. Do any of you want to come in again?
Mine was just, there was a question in the chat, and I think if you...
sorry.
Okay. Yes, Shabina?
Yeah, so there was some questions or there was some comments in the chat, and I thought it'd be good to kind of highlight those. So in terms of, there's been a lot of chit chat about giving independents first preference. And I wondered, Andy, if you could highlight how that might work, specifically in areas where, let's say, if we just looked at the endorsement data, and if an independent perhaps didn't get as many, if there wasn't an independent that got higher kind of endorsements than slate candidates, what would that mean if you were giving an independent candidate your first preference? Just so there's an understanding of what that might look like.
So in my view, and this is sort of where it gets a bit maybe less helpful, is that while I'm definitely advising to vote tactically, I'm not aware of like the situation of because the independents by their nature we can't treat them as a monolithic group. Like, it might be that independent voters are just I want independence over everyone else, or it might have been that they're they might just be anti-slate entirely, or it might be that just that particular independent candidate was great, but otherwise they lean one slate or the other. So it's really tricky to work out what some possible advice in any given region would be. So, but I do have the counts of endorsements for each region. I got shared this spreadsheet that has each region and how many endorsements were there. So if you take, for example, the West Midlands, then only Alex Fox made it through. If this is correct, I assume it is. Apology if it's not, but only Alex Fox made it through as an independent. Now, there's 2 ways to look at the endorsement counts. If you were going to consider the endorsement counts earlier, which is really, as was stated earlier, sorry, I'm really bad with names, and whoever made that point, possibly Helen, I'm sorry, was right that we can't really trust these as any kind of realistic polling numbers. But if you say took the amount of, because there's two ways to look at this. There's the total count of endorsements, and there's 1,172 endorsements total here, of which 467 of those are for independents. So if you consider the independents would vote as a block, then Alex Fox as a first preference would have more combined votes than either the grassroots left candidates if they consolidated, or the many candidates if they get consolidated. So I mean, obviously, if your choice is independent in West Midlands, you only seem to have one choice anyway. So if that's your preference, then that's where you would go. So I would just look for a region that had multiple independents. So I was trying to do some clever projections on this earlier, and it ended up not quite working out that I had enough time. So if we say take Northwest, where 618 endorsements for the many, a similar amount for grassroots left, and then like a total of 2,000. You were busy in the Northwest, 2,782. I mean, the majority of people want endorsed independents over slates, but it's hard to know what it actually means for that to have happened. But I would imagine that you maybe want to vote. If you want a non-slate candidate, then it's possible that the most likely person to win a seat in round one would be the independent with the most endorsements, but I think it would depend on your region and like what your feeling is, the sort of vibe of like who is popular, who is not popular, and what have you. And I'll go, Jenny. I see that your hand is up, and I do just want to sort of respond to a point that was made earlier about having independents through to split the vote of your opponent. I disagree with that analysis, because I think that what the benefit of having like independents and more independents on the ballot, regardless of the Imperiali system, obviously massively works against independents. But if you only had, say, many versus grassroots left on each slate, on each ballot, and it was only them, then as we saw earlier, if you have a voting block that represents 51%, then that voting block could actually just get both seats by just having a slight plurality of votes under Imperiali. The presence of the independents actually reduces the likelihood of one voting block getting both seats, and increases the likelihood of each voting block getting one seat each. If the voting blocks are trying to consolidate their votes with rankings, but that's my view of it. It might play out differently. So, Jenny Curtis, you would like to unmute?
Hi, yeah. Sorry, I haven't got the picture on because my camera's a bit wobbly. Yeah, I was just saying in the chat that I've actually written to the Member Oversight Committee to complain about this whole thing and to ask for transparency about why they've chosen this particular system. I think that it might be a good idea if a few other people did as well. I don't think that it's in line with what conference expected when they said they wanted STV, because the most common system used in this country is something like the Droop. Even if people don't know what that's called, that's what they'd be expecting, and that's not what they're getting. And I think it's a little bit deceitful. So I've written to the MOC and I've sent a copy to the Electoral Reform Society. So if anybody wants to do the same thing, I suggest they do that. Thank you.
Yeah, I completely agree. And good luck getting an email back that doesn't just, we've received your complaint. But
yeah, I'm not expecting great things, but if I didn't do it, I'd regret it. So there you go.
Completely agree.
Right. Yeah, and thanks for organising all this, by the way.
More about it. I think that if anybody has, I mean, I would like to say that I'm not an expert on this at all. I'm just a very enthused amateur. and so there's some of this is just, some of it is a little bit speculation, some of it is, but it's, I'd like to think it's informed speculation. I'd like to think it's well-informed speculation based on stats and various other things. But yeah, I'm not an expert, and I'm not. Yeah, but I feel like I understand this a little bit better than perhaps I've heard from others, and they've found my advice on this or my feedback on this useful. So I thought it's best to share that with as many people as possible in case it is useful to anyone else. Shabina, I believe you got your hand up on behalf of Corsa, is that right?
Corsa, yes, that's right.
Corsa, if you could unmute, over to you.
And Andy, just as well, there is Sue. Did you want to come in? Did you manage to come in? No, there's also Sue who didn't know how to put the hand up as well. So
okay,
if you could come to them as well.
Corsa, then Sue.
Okay, can you hear me, guys?
And then Anwar, I'll see your hands up as well. But yeah, Corsa, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Hello, I don't know if you can hear me.
We'll just want Corsa right now.
Okay, everybody, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, Corsa, yeah.
Oh, lovely, okay. So I'm a real novice. I mean, I am toddler mentality when it comes to this sort of thing. I'm glad that you've got it recorded and we can look at it and I can read the information and go through it and try and understand it a little bit better. So thank you for that. What I'm trying to get to is a place in my head is like, okay, what's the strategy here, guys? What are we supposed to do? Yeah, what can we do to make sure there is a more even playing field? You know what I mean? A more level playing field. How can we? I mean, should we be advising people to pick independence as your first priority? Should we be advising people to put off voting and then wait for instruction, right? Because I think from what you're saying is you can get, some people can get over the threshold and there's other people who just need that little bit of a push. And there's no point in wasting votes. So if people are already over the threshold, then maybe we can then redirect the other people to voting for other people. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I see what you're saying there, but we don't know that before the end. The votes are going to be, as far as I'm aware, unless I've seen otherwise, unless things are like more insane than I thought they were, we won't know who is past the threshold or not until the votes are counted at the end. So there's no great benefit to, there's no rush to vote. With the voting's open for another until the 23rd. Check that date yourself. But there's no real benefit to voting early, apart from mitigating whether or not the website crashes or something like that in the future. But waiting is sort of getting as much information as you can before voting is not a bad idea.
Exactly what I've been advising people is wait until you've actually had a chance to look at all the candidates, get as much information as possible. That's kind of what I'm trying to do with doing the more detailed profiles on people as well, so that, you know, people get a chance, because there's nowhere else, I don't think there's anywhere else, certainly not on the Your Party website, where people can get a more in-depth, you know, background on any of the candidates, right? So we're trying to do that, and I've been posting to a lot of the groups saying that do not vote early, wait until you've had a chance to look at all the candidates. I'm not advocating for one faction or another faction or a specific candidate or anything like that, just saying take your time, get to know people before you do that. But I mean, I was hoping that maybe there was as a result of this conversation, there was a way of formulating some kind of strategy. You know, what can we do to try and level up the playing field?
So the advice that I would give is, and I can't give any advice on any particular region because I don't want to do that. Even if I did have that advice, I wouldn't want to do it like any specific. I don't want to say go and vote for this person because that's not.
No.
Yeah, I would find that distasteful if anyone else was trying to do it for me, and I wouldn't do it myself. But what I would say is that because we don't have any polling, it's going to be based on sort of a gut feel. Is if you should vote for, you should rank highest the candidate that you feel is most likely to get over that threshold in the first round or two, preferably the first round. who you think would do that you wouldn't mind being on the CEC. It might not be the person you want most, but in this instance, you're sort of also in a very first past the post kind of way. You're also kind of like voting against somebody else getting in, like in first past the post, where you might tactically vote for. You might don't come for me. You might tactically vote for Labour to keep out reform. You might. But in that kind of case, you might vote for just the highest, the most popular independent to keep out one or both of slates or whatever. But
how do you determine who's the most popular?
That's going to be sort of region by region, and people in those regions are going to have a better feel for who that might be than I possibly could. And yeah. So you would say Sue next, and then Anwar will be after that. Sue Brennan?
I can't seem to.
I can hear you.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah.
My question is, we thought we were doing the right thing in the Northwest, and we all let loads of independents through. So there are 6 of us. But of course, because some people really didn't encourage over 74, we've no idea who has the highest vote. How on earth do we now sort of consolidate and vote for vote in the best way or advise other people? So you've still got it up on screen. So obviously Sam Gorst has done really well, and I think he will do really well. But out of the rest of us, how on earth? Because we all cut ourselves off.
Yeah.
Not long after 75.
Yeah.
So we've no idea who's most popular. How on earth do we deal with that to make sure one of us gets through?
I guess, I mean, it's what you could have done. So if we'd known about this system well in advance when it was decided on, then we could have we could have gone on like a mass polling thing where we figured out what preferences are to figure this out. But because voting is already opened, I'm guessing a lot of people will already have voted. Figuring that out now by polling and things like that, it takes time. I don't know. I don't. It's not fair. It's not fair at all. And there's so in that regard, I can't say. If you are able to consolidate, if you are able to maybe get together as a group of independents and sort of like pick one of you to really push, and it's not fair at all that you would need to sort of sacrifice yourselves to push one of you, but that might be a way to sort of basically sort of start at when you're already behind tactically, is to then sort of like pivot towards being a sort of late slate kind of thing, and sort of like all get behind going, oh, we should all say if it was you that was picked, to be like, oh yeah, okay, so rank Sue number 1, and then these independents in this order. But I really hate how sort of down I am about how much I think that might be effective. It might help if you did that.
But I agree with you. If we'd known the system before, but of course we didn't.
Yeah.
And I just feel at this point in time, for us to put complaints in and be arsy and is not the appropriate time. But I just hope going forward over the line, whatever the results, we maybe get together and we ensure this doesn't happen again, because surely it's one member, one vote. And the whole process from my observations, in small ways and big ways, has absolutely worked against that. It's not the time, because ordinary Joe, ordinary Gillian, ordinary anyone, they just want to vote. They're just energised and they vote.
Yeah. I don't blame anyone for going in and voting on. It's exciting to vote. I wanted to vote right away, but then I saw that there was actually problems with the website, where this is sort of another thing with this election. On the first people who voted were actually voting, and they couldn't rank more than however many seats there were in their region. So if you were in the Northwest, you could only rank 2. Now, and then obviously under STV, you're supposed to be able to rank as many as you want. So those people were effectively voting under a voting system that would had different rules to everyone else that's voted. Therefore, but they now they now have lost the opportunity to do that. I mean, it's unlikely that the beyond the second rank will matter anyway, but that's not the point. Those votes should I suggest that because of that happened, the entire vote should just be restarted. At the very least, those people should be able to recast their votes how they want to, but I doubt any of that's going to happen. Is there anything else on that to touch on, Sue?
Not really. I think you've answered my question in that I think we've missed the chance. But we have to maybe take it because it's been, and I'm not usually a complainer, but it's at every state, the number of mistakes, and a part of me's been quite lenient and thinking it's a new thing, it's completely new.
I've been the same way as I'm sure other people
it's mistake, and yeah, I'm hoping that all the independents in the Northwest stay with it, and go forward and put in a considerable hang on. These things weren't right. Let's get it right. I think perhaps that's all we can do.
I think well said there. Anwarul, thanks for being patient.
Yeah. Sorry, yeah. Look, this has been a fantastic meeting. I've picked up quite a bit in terms of understanding exactly what some of the challenges are. That last question, or I would say to people, look, just pick who because you can think about all the possible tactics. At the moment, it's too late. Pick who you really, really want and put them down, because that's the right thing to do, and that's what we should have been able to do from the beginning. And I should hold my hand up and say, look, I'm on a slate, right? And I think this whole thing has been a mess from the start, and it's been really unfair. And I'm not just talking about the election itself, I'm talking about the whole process. And it isn't, and this is where, like I'd say to Sue, it isn't that it's new that we, just had time, we didn't have the time. I've been involved in this project now for the last 2 years in the background in negotiations and things like that. There's been plenty of time. The problem is that there are certain people who've essentially co-opted power right at the beginning, and they don't know what they're doing. That's my view. They don't know what they do, and importantly, they don't care to ask the members and the volunteers. I mean, I didn't really understand any of this stuff. Andy, who is an ordinary member, has that information. And I'm sure there are plenty of other people who have these skill sets. And why aren't we asking our membership to volunteer and support this process? And they could have done this right from the beginning. Anyways, I mean, hopefully we're all, all of us, keep in contact, whether we get through or not. And we try to put pressure on whoever is in the CEC to actually address these things properly, because we cannot argue to ordinary voters to vote us into government if we can't get this right within our own party. That's the reality. My question actually, Andy, was for yourself, is a little perhaps complicate the scenario.
Sorry, I briefly lost you just after you started the question, I think.
Sorry, yeah. So just to complicate the scenario a little bit more, is that actually we have a rule that says we need to have at least one, and apologies if I'm using binary language, but at least one female candidate and one non-female, right? It could be anyone, right? So potentially, we have to have in each region, we have to have it's not going to be simple like, oh, there's only 2 candidates and then you split the votes between 2 candidates. Actually, you have to have 1 female in this. So how does that change the actual calculus here?
So, I mean, that is a very pertinent question. It is that is addressed in did they use woman? No, they used woman. So they did using the definition of gender balance that they decided on, that forced our non-binary members into choosing to appear listed as male or female, which is a whole thing for a different thing, but I've made my feelings very clear on that, being horrendous. But it says, so in the STV explainer, it says gender requirements for English regions will be applied ex post, meaning that the election will run as usual. If the provisional result does not satisfy the gender balance requirement, which would be that both seats are taken by people listed as men, because both seats can be taken by people listed as women. It's at least 1 woman, so it is possible that we end up with a very gender balanced 18 women in the CEC, which I think would be a lot better than a very gender balanced 18 men on the CEC. But that's sort of, again, that's a different conversation. So it says if both seats end up taken by men in the provisional result, then the lowest ranked elected male will be identified in order of fewest votes at the time of their election and replaced with the highest ranked non-elected woman at this time. Now, I haven't gotten into that part personally because I don't understand why you wouldn't, if when you've elected your first seat, you wouldn't then just sort of eliminate all remaining men. I haven't gotten into the implications of what that means in terms of projecting out whatever it would be, like how that could actually play out. But I think sort of looking at the just looking at the if we consider the endorsements as a sort of as a best guess of sort of the popularity of any given candidate, then I believe a woman was apart from public office holder, with I believe a woman was actually the most popular by endorsement count candidate in each region. So hopefully it actually doesn't come to pass that comes into play, because it sounds like a mess if it does. But good question, and I'm sorry I don't have a better answer for that. If your question's answered, I'll go to Shabina.
Okay, so just a couple of things there. Also, the point you just made there, Andy, yeah, it doesn't make sense. Also, why wouldn't you just continue with the round until you got to a female candidate who passed the quota, for instance? It just doesn't make sense. Okay, that aside, you know, the full, so I think there's a few questions in regards to the examples. So Andy did share a sheet, so he shared a link, so it should be in the chat. We'll share it again. The reason why I haven't shared it again after people have asked is, Andy, I think you shared a link that that does allow people to go in and edit the spreadsheet, and I think that's not what we wanted to do.
So the link I sent earlier was the link to the nominations sheet, which isn't my sheet.
Okay, right.
But I just shared the sharing link that they had there. So I think it's just viewer, and this one is viewer as well.
I think it might have just been what I don't know why I think it allowed me, but that's okay. That's fine.
Joe Taylor said you might have saved a copy that you can edit yourself.
Okay.
So I've just shared a link to the example spreadsheet that I've used there. If anyone wants to go in and have a look at that, that's the example that I went through earlier. Was that it, Shabina?
Yeah, so I was just checking on that, and then I think there was, sorry, my mind's gone absolutely blank. There was something else that I was going to bring up that was in the chat, and it's gone out of my head. So I'll just come back in when it was. But it was just to make sure that we've got that spreadsheet shared, and it wasn't the like editable version of it.
Okay, I will bring in Stuart.
Yeah, for information, the 3 people who are independents in the Northeast are all working very closely together. And in all the publicity that each of the 3 of us put out independently, each of us say, vote independent, 1, 2, 3, and not for either of anybody from either of the 2 slates. So that's what we're doing. Whether it has any impact remains to be seen. But I would have thought one of the crucial things for me is opposing the consistent level of secrecy that's been continuous all the way along. The reality is, Team Corbyn appointed the returning officer, and then the returning officer picked the system that was most beneficial to Team Corbyn. And it just struck me as being, in a sense, it reflects our trusting naivety that we didn't object to the returning officer himself in the first instance. And lots of stuff has gone on. I've raised the question about the value that's put on peace and justice when it comes to explaining people's expenses, because that's the biggest, most powerful lobby. But just to finish, on a positive note, my view is that spreading the knowledge like Andrew and Shabina are doing itself is an enormous contribution. We've got to make more people aware of how things have been manipulated. And we've got to have what I suppose this is not a party political policy thing, but there's got to be, I think, some kind of democratic movement. I will support other people within the Northeast, and key thing is getting branches established where we have a much greater degree of contact with people and communications, and it'll provide us with a more effective opportunity to influence things for the next conference.
Well said, Stuart. So I did just, Sue, I see you have your hand up there. I just want to point something out really quickly before I bring you in, just on the campaign finances thing. I was in a group chat the other day, and some of the candidates were complaining about how little help how little information and resource they'd had around campaign financing, and also like what they actually need to submit. So because when I see like people need help, I kind of like sort of jump in a little bit on that and maybe go a little bit too far. But what I did was I just created this initial draft of a template of a budget report that if candidates want it, they can copy this and maybe use it. Basically just a thing here which I could share with any candidates that want it if they want it, which basically just goes says it actually touches on the access to mailing lists and things like that, and says what the value of that mailing list, because a mass email sent out has a cost, and therefore that cost should surely be accounted for. But anyway, so it just goes through there, and I could take anyone through this. It's just basically I got a side quest feeling on it. So if any candidates want to look at that and talk to me about that, I'm totally happy to share that if it's of any use. Sue, you're muted.
Find it. There we are. Yeah, I I don't know why my alarm didn't go off and I missed most of most of the session. But so the thing about one female and the point at which they exhaust the counting, if they exhaust the counting at the point where two people have crossed the threshold, that's different to if they carry on exhausting the counting further on and will give a different result. So it does make a difference what they decide to do there, and they could well decide to do whatever suited their factional interests. Yeah. Somebody said about suggesting independence. 1, 2, 3.
The thing is with slates is that they have a decided advantage, and that's both the grassroots left as well. They have a decided advantage because they are a consolidated voting bloc, and that's not. I'm not saying that as a criticism of either. That's not why I'm here to sort of advocate for or not. I'm not advocating vote independence, vote not independence, what have you. But the larger voting blocs have, by just virtue of using this system, have a decidedly larger disproportionate advantage compared to a non-consolidated independent votes. Now, even under Droop, I'm not saying that Droop's perfect. Like it's more representation, it's better. It still does give a bias towards larger voting blocks. It's just not as much of a bias. And on the advantage that this brings, and it's something that I'm struggling to explain. I'm trying to sort of come up with why in my head, but I'm aware that the slates are both in varying degrees pushing a ranking order to consolidate this vote. And I've seen say from the grassroots left, they have, for each region, they've got vote in this order, rank 1 and 2. I know that, for example, in the northeast, which is where I am, they've got Ian Spencer first, and then Myra, that will, if the supporters of that slate follow that advice, that will consolidate the vote with Ian Spencer. And based on the numbers that I've seen in terms of like endorsements and things like that, it's like a very, very, very high chance that gives him a seat very early. And I think the many have done that for public office, but they haven't done that for every region for the seats that I've seen. They have done it. I think they've done it for some, but I don't think they've done it for all, because I don't think they've done it for the northeast, because I would know. So it's strange to me that they have this. If this is something that's being put on the scales, like in a fully manipulative way in order to benefit the many, it's strange to me that the many aren't also sort of jumping on the tactical advantage that gives them by consolidating their vote. And why they might be doing that, why they might not be doing that, I don't know. I don't have a clue. I don't have a clue of the motivations of most people, it turns out. Because when I first heard the rumor that Imperiali was going to be used, I was very annoyed, very angry, but also I didn't believe it, because it's so bad that you couldn't possibly use it on purpose. Like, you couldn't possibly put this in place, not know that it's unfair. But then other things going on around that makes it doesn't make sense, and I don't like it when things don't make sense. But I'll sort of stop rabbiting on a little bit. Anwar?
Yeah, so I don't know if you can see me, but what was I going to say? I was just going to plug what, because of what Stuart said earlier. I think it was Stuart. But one of the things that happens in organizations is that people get divided up very easily. And it's a really easy way to control the membership if you don't have access to each other. So events like this is really useful. But I wanted to plug the connections because that's the whole purpose of me setting that whole network up, was that actually, if we are connected to each other, it's much, much harder for them to do these kinds of things and get away with it. That's the reality. Was it November 24? To basically come to the conclusion that it was going to be a top-down project, and that the only way that you could counter this is by connecting it, supporting the development of local groups and connecting as many of them as possible. We now cover just under 40% of constituencies, and if your group, if you and your proto branch aren't actually connected, or excuse the pun, right, please get in touch, because Andy first found out about this because I have access to information that others don't necessarily have, and I distribute that into the group, and then there are others in that network who also have that. So we collectively have knowledge, we put together, and we can organize as a consequence. And I think that, that old adage about knowledge is power, it really is, right? Which is why, the membership data or member lists haven't been handed out to people yet, because it's really, if everybody knew what was happening from the beginning, then people would have been rioting from the beginning and we would have had control. We wouldn't have had this mess because people would have rightly addressed it right from the beginning. So please, 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 if the only thing we learn from this is that we need to be able to organize effectively on the ground so that decisions that are made by our hand and not by somebody else's, and they don't then just give us these kind of like, Rice Krispies or cornflakes as an option and say, hey, look, we've got access to real democracy, right? We want Whole Foods. That's what we want. Anyways, I'll stop rabbiting on. Thank you.
I can confirm that I did first hear this from Anwarul in the connections chat. And I do apologize, Anwarul, for not believing you, for being very suspicious about this information at first. I did apologize later on for not believing it at first. It's still unbelievable to me that it's being used because it's so bad in my opinion anyway. We might end up out of this with the same CEC that we would have got under another system, but the justification for using this use in the STV explainer is not valid to me. It doesn't make sense. What Anne was saying about having more larger areas with more members, it does make it more appropriate for STV, but the justification for using this quota doesn't change with that. It doesn't make sense. I feel misled by that explanation. And Jenny Curtis.
Yeah, hi there. Yeah, one of the things that I don't know, I'm speaking on behalf of all the independents here, and I don't really know how they feel because I haven't asked them yet. But I feel like the independents ought to commit to saying we will be on the CEC for 6 months, at which point we'll have another conference, dissolve ourselves and do it all again properly. That 6 months, we take it to get all the machinery up and running, and then we step back and we do it right this time, because it's just ridiculous and we're making fools of ourselves. That's just how I feel. So I might if I get on the CEC, I'll be dissolving myself in 6 months. And I'd like to back up with an Anwarul saying, because I think he sounded very sensible about us all getting together and talking things through.
Thank you very much, Jenny. Anne?
Yeah, I think the justification they gave for using the Imperiali was that it was simple and easy for people to understand. And they combined it with the most complicated count method. I mean, the count method is okay, but it's complicated and difficult to understand. Yeah. So it doesn't make sense to have those two. I mean, people in Ireland understand the Droop quota, and people in Scotland understand it. I mean, they couldn't tell you it's Droop quota probably, but they have no problem understanding how it all works. So, you know, saying it's because it's simple and then using the most complicated count, which doesn't make any sense at all. I guess it's only to advantage their own people. There has to be, which is disappointing.
Thank you very much. So I did see, I've not been great at keeping up with the chat, so sorry if I've missed something important in there. Just while I've been going through everything else, it's hard to keep track of. What I did see there was a correction to something I did say, which was I hadn't seen that the many are giving rankings per region. That is not the case. I've just seen Jenny in the chat has shared the one that they're doing for the Northeast. So yeah, so both slates are doing the trying to take tactical advantage of this situation that favours them anyway. Shabina?
Yeah, there was just a couple of points from the chat. I think, I don't know if yourself or Anwar could just explain what the connections group is very quickly as a one, just because it was mentioned, and just like when we use abbreviations, not everyone's aware of it, makes it a bit difficult to follow the conversation. And the other thing was, yes, I was going to also mention the tactical voting. I think they might be doing it in certain regions, because I know Grassroots Left aren't doing it in the West Midlands, for instance. That's the only one I've really cared about and kept an eye on. So I think I'm not sure if they're just targeting certain areas or not. And I was also going to suggest that we start wrapping up, so everyone can have a bit of a break from all of this as well, and enjoy whatever else is left of today. And you can still make it to those dates if you want to, people. It's fine. But yeah, those are the 3 points that I just wanted to make, Andy.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. I was just I didn't want to cut any, I know we've gone over time, but I didn't, while there were still questions happening, I didn't want to cut anyone off, because yeah. I mean, if anyone does have any questions after this, feel free to reach out. I'm in a lot of group chats. If you don't know, if you're not in one with me, you probably know someone that is in one with me. I know, yeah, I don't think I'm particularly difficult to get hold of. So feel free to reach out. I have recorded this. It seems like, would anybody be against this being uploaded and shared anywhere? Anwar, okay, last raise hand will be Anwar. If you, I think, are you coming in to give us a little rundown on
just
connections?
a response that Shabina's asked a bit more about the connections network. Yeah, essentially, so I have put into the chat a couple of times this response to people, my WhatsApp number. If you are in a proto branch, and which hopefully everyone should be, there should be a proto branch near you, and that proto branch hasn't got, if you're not Helen, send me a message, or I see a few people are shaking their heads, and I can see what's going on. But the idea is that the proto branches would have some kind of elected representative or agreed representative, however way they make their decisions in their proto branch, and they can have up to 2. And this is just to help manage the numbers in the groups that we've got and in Zoom meetings, so that no one space can one proto branch can dominate the entire meetings. We meet every Monday at 8 p.m. via Zoom, and we share what's happening and what information we know, and potentially collaborate on things, and organise however way people want. We've got a simple code of conduct to help manage WhatsApp space, but beyond that, you can be of any different faction or none. The space is open and free, and I think it's fairly. I mean, the general discussions WhatsApp group gets a little bit hairy sometimes, but I think everyone now is pretty much okay with self restraint. We don't have any major issues. in there. So yeah, so please, if your Projo branch doesn't have someone in there, do let them know and make a decision. It's really important that it is an elected and agreed person, because we have had scenarios before but that wasn't the case. I say scenarios, it was one scenario, but that wasn't the case, and the person misled us, and it just created such havoc in their local area that I've had to be really, really strict. It is based on trust, and it is. I don't own it. I facilitate an admin, and the idea is that more and more people, reps, take ownership of the actual network. We have various different people sharing, etc., and so forth. If you do have any questions on it, please feel free to message me. I'll try to answer as well as I can.
I think a couple of people, Anwar, have asked about like getting a link to the WhatsApp group. I know you've posted your phone number just in some of the replies. If you're fine with doing that, maybe if you post it in just the main chat.
Yeah, I've not done it in the main chat. I'll
yeah,
put my number.
You did it in some replies to some of the things. So I think you might have got missed. But if you're fine with that,
yeah, I'll stick it in now.
Cool. Anwar's going to post his number in main chat. Contact him directly for more information on connections. Cool. Well, I think that wraps us up for the evening. Sorry for keeping you for longer than intended on this beautiful corporate mandated romance day. Have a good evening.
Thanks everyone for attending. Thank you, Andy, as well, for everything.
Yes, thank you, Andy.
Yeah. Thank you. Oh, I don't like that part.
Good job.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
I shall end the meeting and figure out the recording later. Okay. Bye all.